Jay here, Stretford Paddock, and this is it. This is the big one.
You gotta stop with that
Manchester
now.
United versus West Ham, the FA Cup 5th round. It doesn't get any bigger than that, does it, Joseph Smith?
I mean, it literally doesn't. It's not like we've got cup finals, games against Barcelona, games against Liverpool coming up. We've had such an incredible run.
Are any of those games in football's oldest competition?
What, the Sheffield Cup?
No, the FA Cup.
Oh, no,
this is why we're previewing it with such enthusiasm, because it is the oldest competition.
Yeah.
It's the best if we win it.
And you respect your elders,
And I
don't you?
respect my elders, which is quite difficult for me because I'm so old.
Yeah.
There's so few people that
That's
are older
true.
than me.
Yeah, only the papyrus of time can tell when you were originally born, can't it? Checking out the Library of Alexandria for Jay's birth records.
He just says words and I just nod. Right. Seriously though,
All right.
we are potentially on for a
Let's
trophy
be
haul.
honest.
A trophy haul,
Yes,
shall we
good-
say?
good phrasing, yeah.
Let's be slightly vague with it. And adding the FA Cup to the Carabao Cup would be immense, because some of my fondest memories as a United fan are FA Cup memories.
Yeah.
And I think if we were to win this competition in Erik ten Hag's first season, as well as winning the Carabao Cup,
Yeah.
that'd be pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it would. And like you said, the great thing about winning the Carabao Cup is, and I know this is a bit obvious and it's a bit silly and whatever, but it's won now. You can't stop that. You can't take that away. This is now, unless we finish 8th or something implodes, this is now a season that is better than most people thought we'd have. Especially if you're looking at how sort of, again, safe is a tricky word because anything can happen, but how confident I would say I am about top 4. Top 4 in a trophy was sort of very much the upper limit of what most people thought we were capable of this season. So anything from there is a bonus, and the FA Cup would be a massive, juicy little bonus as well. So yeah, it's a massive season now where we've gone from being one where it's sort of maybe damaged limitations like we thought it might be after the Brentford and Brighton games, to one where you're looking at going, actually, this could be our best season in a decade, which is bizarre. I mean, it could be one of our greatest seasons of all time, but I don't think we'll get the Premier League. But yeah, it's amazing how things have turned around, and now that League Cup is done, we've broken the curse of semi-finals and finals and not being able to win them, and we've set off on the best possible foot for the rest of Ten Hag's tenure. It's a perfect trophy, and the FA Cup would be great to add to that.
It really would. If we are going to win the FA Cup, and we are going to do anything in the league and win the Europa for that matter, or Erik ten Hag does have to shuffle his pack, he does have to rotate. Yeah. It does feel a little bit like, although the games are coming thick and fast, there are 1 or 2 players where they always say, you need a squad of around sort of 14 or 15 players that could be classed as first team players. Yeah. And I think that we almost have that. Yeah. I feel like United, you could make a case to say that Dalot is first choice, but so is Wan-Bissaka. Yeah. Freddie's first choice, but so is Sabitzer.
Yeah.
You could, there's like
you could do the same
Sancho,
with Malacia and Shaw.
Yeah, Malacia and Shaw, and maybe you could argue that Sancho and Garnacho and Anthony are all sort of first team players because they all get so many minutes. So it does feel like we do have a squad. Obviously, there's 1 or 2 players who are fundamental. Casemiro, Marcus Rashford, for example, are 2 players that, if anything happened to them, we'd be in all sorts of trouble. But that's the case with everyone. With 8 games, I think we've played 8 games, in 24 days. Do you see the squad, which has coped really well, and Erik ten Hag has coped with it really well, do you think we're going to be able to continue to cope so well with the amount of games that are still on the horizon?
Yeah, I think this season we will. And I think we've played 8 in 24 days. I think we've got 7 in the next 23 days. So it's not getting any easier.
No.
But I think the problem, my only concern, and this is very much a sort of luxury position to be in because of how good we've been this season. Yeah. I worry about next season now, because I think in the moment this season we'll be able to get through all of these games. There'll be some injuries here and there. We've seen Eriksen go, and Rashford or Casemiro, like you said, could have an injury that could affect things. But when you look at what happened to Liverpool last season and then this season, and we saw it with United, the season we got to the Europa League final, and then the year after, where you're playing a lot more games than everyone else. You're playing late into the summer, into the start of the summer, and all of a sudden next year, everyone's just 2% off it, 5% off it, and cumulatively, when you lose confidence as well, it becomes a really bad season. So my worry is that next year we won't have the intensity and the energy for this season. And I know it's a bit of a pessimistic way to look at things, but I just hope that we've got the reinforcements, and like you said, we've got those players that can come in and out and save people like Varane. I think he obviously retired from international football. The sort of signs of weathering are starting to show there. Casemiro's 31 now. Bruno Fernandes plays every single game, every single week. And I just hope that, there's enough in the squad and enough in the tank that not just this season, but next season, when we really think we want to be pushing for the Premier League title or at least challenging, that we haven't kind of burnt it all out this year because it felt like it could be a good season. We could end up playing 69 games this season and winning one trophy. And then you go into next season and you go, we're knackered. So that's my only worry is I think we'll be okay for this run, this 7 games in 23. I've just hoped that there's a longer term vision at play here that will stop us having these Liverpool spike, crash seasons, because they'll finish 1st, 2nd, 6th, 1st, 8th. I don't want that. I want to be up and maintain it. So yeah, it's a bit of a long answer, but I do think shorter term we'll be able to get through this run pretty successfully.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I also think next season I do expect some more additions.
That's the key.
I do think not only will we see signings coming in, we're going to buy a striker, we're going to buy at least one midfielder.
Yeah.
I also feel that 1 or 2 of the younger players may get more minutes. Kobe Mainoo's been getting quite a lot of minutes for a 17-year-old. He could end up more minutes. Zidane Iqbal could start featuring in and around the first team. Charlie McNeil's gone out on loan. Maybe he comes back into the fold. There's so many players that I think from the youth or the academy teams that could come up, and also I expect us to make some signings. But I understand where you're coming from. We don't want the sort of boom and bust seasons that Liverpool have. No one wants that.
No, exactly. And that is what you said there is crucial, because you look at their midfield that started the game, I think the other day, was it Palace that they drew against? I think it was Milner, Henderson and, was it Naby Keita? I can't remember who it was anyway. 3 of those players that I think were starting games together in 2018, still starting in the midfield. So if United can constantly sort of revolve and bring in an extra player here and there and slowly transition over the seasons, I think we'll be fine. But we've just got to make sure that we do that.
We have got to make sure that we do that.
Yeah.
With all that being said then, give us your predicted 11, the team that you think Erik ten Hag is going to pick to face the Hammers.
Yeah, there you go. You can see it. De Gea, I think that speaks for itself. He plays every week when he's fit. Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof. I've rested Varane because of the reasons we spoke about.
Yeah, I understand that.
I think he's spoken in the past about his physical effects and mental effects of playing basically twice a week for the last 10 years. And then you've got Lindelof, Martinez, Malacia. I've also given Luke Shaw a bit of a rest as well, just because I think he could do with one. Then we've got Sabitzer, Casemiro and Weghorst in the 10. It could be Fernandes and Weghorst switching, like Rashford on the left, Weghorst up front, Fernandes in the 10. We know the drill, but I think that will be the front 4. Maybe Anthony, but I'd like to see Sabitzer and Casemiro start because they've never started a game together. And I thought Sabitzer looked excellent when he came on in the League Cup final. Wan-Bissaka the same. So I think they both deserve to start. But we can't rest Casemiro or Rashford. So yeah, I've gone with that. What do you think?
He's been a really good signing, Sabitzer. Yeah. It's mad that you get a last-minute deadline day signing in January who is so good.
I know.
And who can just come in and almost, I use the word almost, make you forget about Christian Eriksen. Not quite, but he's done a job. I know he's a different type of player, but now we have another good option in midfield where had we not replaced Christian Eriksen, we'd be massively weakened because he's been so good for us this season. So yeah, I see that. Weghorst in the 10 seems to be more suited there. The problem when you have him leading the line, which we'll get to in a minute, is just the lack of goals. Raise its head a little bit more than when he's in the 10, which you can sort of understand and forgive.
He's just banging assist after assist like in the League Cup final.
And that's okay. But no, I mean, you've rotated there, and if Erik ten Hag follows your example, it's still a strong team.
Yeah.
It's still, you've got class all over the pitch there. So I wouldn't be too concerned if, come Wednesday night, that is the starting 11. Yeah. If you go to mine, slightly different, not massively, but you'll see I've brought in Maguire instead of Lindelof. I understand your point that Lindelof for Varane. I just feel that Maguire could do a job against West Ham.
Yeah.
And I feel like he might think, I'll give you some minutes because A, I need to rest Varane, and B, I need to give everyone who I might use in the future some minutes, and this is a good time to give you some. I've gone with Fred, Casemiro and Sabitzer. I think Bruno, he's played so many games, does need a rest.
I hope he does get a rest.
Yeah,
it just doesn't happen, does it?
This is the game. I know Sabitzer, he's not an out-and-out 10, but he can play there. I think he can play anywhere in the middle. He can play as a DM, plays an 8, plays a 10. I've gone with Weghorst leading the line. The question marks around his goal scoring will come up. I do think he's going to score. Yeah. And I am going to say that before every single game until he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marcus Rashford, enough said. And Jadon Sancho. I expect them two to swap over. When they play, they tend to swap over.
They both go. They did it in the cup final, didn't they? Where you
and
see
it can be a little bit annoying at times. I would rather Marcus just stayed on the left.
Yeah.
But I think this is what will happen because obviously this is predicted, not preferred.
Yep.
I've gone with Wan-Bissaka over Dalot. Again, though, you could have picked either or because those two seem to be sort of swapping constantly as well, which is good to see. Should we talk about West Ham?
Yeah.
Hello, is that West Ham? They've got a couple of players who are decent, haven't they? Got Declan Rice.
Yeah.
He's been linked with a move to Manchester United
this season,
for years.
Let's be honest. They've been awful. David Moyes is sort of clinging on for dear life, the 16th in the Premier League. We've got to beat him.
Is that stat true?
Go on.
Right, Jared Bowen, Premier League stats here. 24 appearances, 4 goals. Oh, sorry, top goal scorer for West Ham in all competitions. He's got 8 goals, so he's their top scorer in all competitions with 32 appearances and 8 goals. That's a bit deflating.
But 4 goals in the Premier League.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Not for him.
Yeah.
Like, he's doing well. But if that's your most, prolific goal scorer, you've got issues.
And they've spent money on strikers over the last few years as well. They've got they obviously bought Allaire for like 40 million quid. What's the Italian striker that they've got now?
Man, I've lost count.
Scamacca, who's not scoring either.
What's happening with Mikel Antonio?
Well, Mikel Antonio had his 18-monthly 8 goals in 9 games. He had that about 18 months ago, so he's not scored since, which is what he does. But they overachieved last season, I think, or they achieved what they deserve, which was it 9th that they finished in the end?
They did finish quite high. Do you remember there was that little flurry where people were going, "Oh, David Moyes has done all right. Maybe United got rid of him too soon."
Ridiculous.
Because
he did well, though.
He didn't deserve to get sacked at United, did he?
But now they're back to that point, and I say this every time about West Ham, where you start hearing sentences that make no sense, that are not backed up in reality whatsoever, like the West Ham style of play.
The Academy of Football.
The Academy of Football, and you think, no one except 1,800 West Ham fans think that there is a West Ham style of play. No other fan in the country looks at West Ham and goes, they're not living up to their potential.
And they're
not living up to their history. No one considers them to have any sort of identity whatsoever.
I don't think any West Ham player thinks they've got a West Ham style of play.
But they talk about it like we should be playing better football than this. They've done it under Pellegrini. They did it. He's won La Liga, I think, with Real Madrid. He certainly managed Real Madrid.
I think he managed. I think he did that thing, didn't he? It was an anomaly where they got the record number of points but finished second.
Yeah, he's got like 99 points or 100 points for Real Madrid.
But he did win the league at City.
Yeah, he won the league with City, and he can't instill this West Ham style of play. Maybe it's West Ham that's the problem. So I'll be so gutted if we lose because they're just one of the least likeable teams in the Premier League, I think. They just got ideas way above their station with nothing to back it up. So hopefully United can win, but we've got 1,000 games in 1,000 days, and we're 900 games into that. So it's going to be a tricky one.
Give us your score prediction then with everything you've said.
I'm going to go. The fact that it's at Old Trafford sort of heartens me, because we have gone to West Ham and lost a few times. I'm not saying they're shit.
Upton Park can be a difficult one. I saw us get beat 4-0 once there.
Yeah.
I think it was Jonathan Spector got a brace.
Well, we lost to them at the Olympic Stadium as well, didn't we, a couple of years ago? They're an annoying team. They're a good team, but they're not like I said, they haven't got this like aura about them where you're scared. It just happens to be that sometimes they beat you. So I'm going to go 1-0 United.
1-0 United. I'm going to go. I'll go 3-1 United. Yes. But more importantly, I want to hear from you. So get your phone out, film yourself doing a 30-second score prediction and send it to paddockmatchday@gmail.com. Want to hear your score predictions. We'll use that for the build-up to the game on Wednesday. Joe's going to be here for the watch-along, so you can be part of that too. Joe, where can people find you?
Sloppy Joe's podcast. Make sure you check that out. We've got an episode coming out tonight with Ethan, who's a Newcastle fan, going over the Carabao Cup final, so make sure you check that out. Yeah.
Yes, make sure you check that out. You know where to find me, Jay Moy. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. That's been Joe. I've been Jay. This has been the FA Cup preview against West Ham. Thanks for watching.